لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء، تفرد بالأولية والقدم، ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم، كما قال عز شانه: كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت، وقال: كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات. سبحان الله الذي منه خليقة العباد وإليه المعاد. فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يرى ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يرى. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه، يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء، ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء. تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفو تفضل. الحمد لله، الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون. والحمد لله على رسول المسدد المحمود الأحمد بالقاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في كتاب المجيد والفرقان الحميد وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. When someone we love and cherish leaves us, we are all bewildered as to what happened and why. But that is life. When it is time to go, there are no pre-warnings, no goodbyes, no see you later, no opportunity to come back. When a person passes away, there is nothing much he or she can do for himself or herself in the next realm. The person is relying on those that are living in this dunya to do khairat for them and to send them the thawab of that, or to do it in their name so that they can increase their bank balance, so to speak. The currency that is useful changes once we die. There is no longer validity to pounds, dollars, rupees, shillings, whatever currency you can think of. It is now khairat. It is now the currency is majalis, ziyarat, helping the poor, sadaqat, etc., that you are all aware of. That is what is required across, once you cross. But the question that comes across our minds, and we sometimes are afraid to ask that question: we do all this for the marhumin, does it reach them? It's a valid question, right? Does it reach them? Yeah, we hear about it, we do it, but there is this doubt in the back of your minds: does it really reach them? My father liked, for example, jalebi, and you have a tabarruk with jalebi, for example. Does the jalebi reach him? No, it reaches my stomach and your stomach. Right? It doesn't reach him that way. But the reward for that one reaches him. Let me share with you two personal examples which will get that point across, that this is not just a dream, it is something that does reach. Again, it is not something that I read or did. This is something personal that I believe I have heard from within, and that I thought might carry more weight when I share this with you. When my dad passed away, my mom did khairat in his name. And one day she saw him in a dream. And of course, you connect with the persons who have passed away through dreams. You see them through dreams, right? Some of you see them, some of you don't, right? Most of us get what is called nightmares only, right? But we don't tend to see. But sometimes some people do. So my mom did this one, and one day she sees dad in a dream, and he's going out. So she says to him, "Why take some money? You are going out just in case you get stuck somewhere. At least have some cash with you." He turns around and says, "Don't worry. What you sent, I have already got. What you sent, I have already got." Right? So that gave her that confidence that the khairat that she did already reached her. This was one. Two, when my mom passed away, my cousin called me from overseas, and she said, "Haider bhai, I need to share something with you." As a matter of, for a condolence call, she called me. And she says, "I want to share something with you." She said, "I had gone for ziyarat with my husband, and we had gone to, Iraq. And, for those of you who have been to ziyarat, may Allah grant you another opportunity, inshallah. And for those who have never gone, today is the day of Jummah. Pray, inshallah, that we all go together, inshallah, and very soon." Yeah. So she says, if you remember, when you go to Masjid al-Kufa, Masjid al-Sahla, after you do all the amals, right, the mutwalli who's taking you around to do all these amals comes and says to your group leader or so that, ask your people if they want to do these amals, I am able to do that for them, and you pay me something. You give me the names, and inshallah I will do, but I will do it once, covering everybody, right? He's very clear about that one. And many of us, give the names of our marhumin, and we give them whatever money we wish to give, and he does what he has to do. So she says, when I was there, my husband came and said that this mutwalli is asking for this one. "Do you have anybody you want to do for Isal Sawab?" And she says, "Yes, my khala, my masi," right, my mother's sister. She was not of good means. There was no ever a thought could cross her mind that she would ever go for ziyarat. And she had a tough time, and she raised us also. "I want to do it for her." I said, "Okay." So she gave him that name of her khala, and the guy who was the mutwalli there said, "Only one name?" He says, "Yeah, only one name, exclusively one name." She said, "Okay." She came back a few days after, or a month or so later. Her cousin called her. Her khala's daughter called her and says, "Bhai, what did you do?" Says, "What do you mean, what did I do?" "I went for ziyarat." Yeah. He said, "Yeah, but what did you do there?" He said, "Why? What happened?" He says, "I saw my mom in a dream. She was very well dressed. She was smiling and cheerful and looked extremely happy. So I turned to her and said, 'Mom, what's all this happiness and joyous and these good clothes that you are wearing?' She says, 'Siddiqa sent them to me.'" She said, so she said, "What happened?" So then my cousin related to her cousin that this is what I did for your mother. Now that tells us two things from this. One, that what we do does definitely reach, provided our niyat is clear, right? One. Two, that the one who took that money did actually what he was supposed to do, right? Because that question always comes, do they really do that or not, right? So there is this confidence level that yes, they do that, right? So the point here that I'm trying to make here is, do not look back now. Do khairat. You see, the hadith tells us that when our parents have passed away and we have been good kids to them and we have taken care of them and done whatever is necessary, but if after they have passed away we do not take care of them, in the sense we don't do khairat or whatever is necessary in their name, then we will be raised as children who are ungrateful. So just because your parents or have passed away, may Allah grant them all maghfirah, do not forget them. Do whatever you can from your side and teach your children to do that, because tomorrow it is your turn. You will go and then the children will have to carry on with that work out there. And when we connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we do it for His sake and to please Him and we trust Him unconditionally, then whatever tests He throws at us, we will inshallah pass with His help with flying colors. And perhaps this ayat may also apply to us. Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiya. O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, pleased with him, and he pleased with you. That is very critical. To be pleased with Allah, it is easy for us. Is Allah pleased with us? That is the question. That is the million-dollar question. And that's what we are all striving for. Let me share with you another example of Abu Dharr al-Ghaffari. You have heard of him. He is the great Ashab Rasul and Imam Ali alayhi salam. And his story is very touching and inspiring. Because of his adherence to speaking the truth, Abu Dharr was known to speak the truth, regardless who was in power. He told you as he stood it. There was no, shall we say, diplomatic language with him. He told you, you are wrong, khalas. There was no ifs and buts about it, yeah? And because he was so clear, he started speaking against the corruption and the nepotism of Uthman, the third Khalifa, and the Bani Umayyah at large. Right? Because you know the history that the Bani Umayyah, when Uthman came along, Abu Sufyan, the father of Yazid and the father of Muawiyah and the grandfather of Yazid, came out and says, "O children of Umayyah, now that the Khilafat has come to us, treat it like a ball, a soccer ball, and make sure it is passed from one to another. Don't let it slip away from you." Right? So anyway, that's just a side story. So because of this adherence, and he was creating, awareness amongst the people, he was exiled. Uthman exiled him to Sham. So he goes to Sham, and again, it's Abu Dharr. He doesn't keep quiet. So now he sees even more corruption in Sham. So he starts talking there, and they tried to bribe him and do all sorts of things to him, but nothing worked, right? So Muawiyah got so fed up that he decided to exile him again. So Abu Dharr was the only person that was exiled twice. Once out of Medina and then once back to Medina. And now Muawiyah can't deal with, Uthman can't deal with him, so he exiles him again. He exiles him again to a place outside Medina called Rabza. So Abu Dharr was placed in this place, Rabza, where it was basically a desert. Hardly anything up there. He faced tremendous hardships, lack of food, and much more, that eventually his son died, his wife died, and he died leaving behind a daughter. After he buried his son Dharr, that's why he's known Abu Dharr, he said the following dua. Muhaddith Yaqub al-Kulayni writes, then Abu Dharr's son Dharr died. He put his hand on his grave and says, "Oh my son, may Allah have mercy on you. You are a very able son of mine. You have died while I am happy with you. You should know that by Allah, I did not suffer any loss by your death, and I do not need anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O son, if there had been no consideration for the horror after death, I would have been happy to wish to replace you in the grave." No father wishes their son to die. A father would rather die than have their son pass away, right? So he says, I would rather sleep in the grave myself, but let you live. But now, to my mourning, your death has kept you off for mourning for me. But at least you don't have to weep for me. By Allah, I did not weep on your death, but what you have suffered makes me weep, right? He says, it's not that you have passed away. Everybody has to go. But what you went through, because of me, that is what I weep about. Would that I had known what was asked of you and what you said in reply. Then, this is the important ones. O Allah, I have excused my rights which he owed to me. O my nourisher, I pray that you excuse whatever rights he owned to you. My Allah, you are more forgiving than I. So he says that whatever rights he may have fallen short on that he was responsible to do for me, I forgive him. And I'm sure he has done much more that he has not done what you expected to him. You are a greatest forgiver. Forgive him. Right? And Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi writes in his book, Safinatul Bihar, that these words that Abu Dharr said on the grave of his son Dharr were also uttered by Imam Jaffer as-Sadiq on the grave of his son Ismail alayhi salam. Right? So when Ismail was the eldest son of Imam Jaffer as-Sadiq, when he passed away, Imam Jaffer as-Sadiq also said the same words on this one. So Keep this at the back of your mind and know that it is of utmost importance that we learn to forgive each other. You see, we expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us. We do everything that is wrong and we expect Him to forgive, and we expect it with confidence, right? But when it comes to interpersonal relationships, oh my God, you looked at me the wrong way, I will never forgive you for the rest of your lives, right? You did this to me or that. Sometimes, it's very strange when we live in society and we live with each other, and sometimes when I'm passing by, for example, right, and you passed by and you did not say salam for whatever reason, right, I will think, oh, he didn't do salam to me, right? But maybe he may have so many thoughts in his mind that he didn't even know you were standing there. He was in his own thoughts. He just moved and moved on, right? Didn't even know who was around him. How many times we have faced those situations ourselves, whereby we find ourselves in those situations? That reminds me of a beautiful story of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. He was in Kufa, and one day he was coming out of his house, and he came across a young maid sitting on the side and weeping. So Imam turns to her and says, my daughter, what seems to be the problem? He says, my master asked me to go and buy dates. Gave me some money, went to buy dates. I went and bought some dates and went home. My master says these dates are of inferior quality, take them back. How dare you bring this? So I come back to the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper is saying, no, once I have sold, no return. I go back home and tell him that, he's shouting and screaming at me. I'm going to him, he's shouting and screaming at me. I don't know what to do. I can't go home, I can't do this, I'm stuck in this quandary. What do I do? And Imam says, come, I will do sifarish for you. So Imam takes her and goes to the shopkeeper and tells the shopkeeper that, oh shopkeeper, this lady has made a reasonable request. You sold her some goods which are not acceptable. So either give her money back or give her a better quality. There is no third way. This is it, very simple. Why all this drama? The shopkeeper did not recognize Imam Ali alayhi salam, so he was very rude to him. By this time, people in the bazaar, and in the Middle East, the shops are all attached to each other, right? Little kiosks that you can see, you can recall this. So the people have now all gathered and they are watching what's going on. And they watch this. So Imam does not say anything. Then somebody comes and whispers to the shopkeeper's ear and says, do you know who you are talking to? This is Amirul Mu'mineen, Khalifatul Muslimin, right? Do you know who you are talking to? If he chooses, he can cut your head off right away, put you in prison, do whatever he wants. When he realizes that, he comes out racing and says, Mawla, forgive me, I did not recognize you, and this one. Imam did not answer that part of it. Imam said, the request was reasonable. And by this time, this hangama, this commotion was there. The owner of the maid also came to the bazaar to find out. And Imam turns to all of them and says, this was a reasonable request. This was a genuine mistake. You cannot forgive such a simple thing, and you expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you on the day of Qiyamah. What sort of Muslims are you? What have you learned from Islam? Right? So the message that we have for you, me, and all of you, is to ensure that if we're carrying grudges, right? If we are carrying, issues with each other, let it go. Why carry baggage? Why carry baggage? Lighten your load, move forward, say, Allah, whatever this person has done to me, I forgive them. Right? I forgive them, and in the hope that you will forgive me when my turn comes up there. So this is something that we need to take with us, and inshallah, in this barakah of the month of Zil Hajj, which is ending, and the new year with the Muharram starting tonight, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and give us the tawfiq to be able to exercise mercy with each other, as we know from the examples of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، رحمة للعالمين بالقاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليه وآله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبضعة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وعلى الحسن المجتبى. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ما هي آثار البدء والطغيان، هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق، حاصد فروع البغي والشقاق، صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آباء الكرام ما اتصل الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه، واغفل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه، واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه، وتفضل على أمرائنا المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أهله، ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهله، بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Tonight, inshallah, will be the first night of Muharram. Whenever we hear and we are close to the days of Muharram, our hearts and souls are already in Karbala. We wish we were there to share with the Zawar that are already there up there. May inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that opportunity to go there as quickly as possible. And as I have said many times before, the best gift you can give to your son or daughter or your grandchildren is to take them to Karbala. Take them to Karbala, and when I say Karbala, understand that it means Karbala, Najaf, Kazmain, Samarra, Mashhad, Qom, and Sham, Makkah, and Medina. Right? So when I use the word Karbala, it means all these places that we normally go to. When we do that, and if the child connects with Imam Hussein alayhi salam, then you have it made. Because life will throw curveballs at that child like nobody, it has never done before. And sometimes they will slip away from the path. But when they hear the word Ya Hussein, they will come back. They will come back because they have made that connection up there. This aza of Imam Hussein alayhi salam has been kept alive by blood, sweat, and tears. And we owe it to the generations to come that we keep it alive. Just to share with you a couple of examples to ensure that we understand how people in the past managed to keep it alive. There is this beautiful story about the early days during the time of the Bani Abbas and Mutawakkil and those times, when they would not allow people to go to Karbala. And you know about the story that he started levying, Mutawakkil started levying taxes, and then he started cutting the arms and so on. I don't want to go there one. But then there was curfew and people would not be allowed to go on. So there is this one beautiful story about a mother with little children, and it is Muharram now, so she comes, tells her children, let's go out. But the children says, Mama, you told us to stay in the house, not to come out. The government has ordered that you can't go. He says, in the quiet of the evening, on the night, let's go out. So they very quietly leave their house. They go to a place, this is slightly out of town. She sits her children down and she stands up and she says, I am reading the Masaib of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Right? I am reading, oh children, listen carefully. So she reads the Masaib of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, whatever is within her capacity, and the children cry. Then she sits down and then she tells the older child, or son or daughter, whoever it was, now you stand up and you read so I can also cry. Right? I can also remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is the way that they kept it alive. During the time of the Russian, the communist rule in Russia, an alim had gone to Moscow about 10, 15 years ago, and he visited various Shia centers. And he once goes to one Shia center, and everything is in Russian. The majlis, the latmiya, the matam, everything is in Russian. Then as the matam is going on, suddenly they dim the lights. Everything comes to a quiet. Everybody opens 2 buttons from their shirt. And then with a very quiet voice, they take 2 fingers and they do matam like this, right? For 5 minutes. They do that, and then the lights are on again, and they carry on, and everything finishes. So the alim asks him, what was all that about? He says, during the time of the communists, we were not allowed. We were not allowed to do, Aza of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But we promised ourselves that we will do it. And this was the way we did it. Right? So that the noise would not go out. This was to remind our children that this is a rich legacy that you have got. Don't lose it. Don't lose this. This is how we saved it. Now it is open. Make sure you keep it going alive. Look back at ourselves. This is 2022, 50 years ago. 1968, 1969, 1970, when the first immigrants started coming. Right? They came up here, there was nothing. They were all basically refugees, they had no place to go, but what they did was, now Muharram is there, what do? So they gathered together at each other's houses in their basements, right? And now, if they could find somebody to recite Majlis, they found somebody. If they could not find somebody, they found somebody to recite Marsiya or Matam or do whatever. If they could not find something, they had cassettes, and they would put cassettes. And I know the young people don't understand what a cassette is, but understand that was the way those days. They would put a cassette on a chair as a member to say, this is the Majlis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And if there was nobody to recite Marsiya, then they were done on the cassette, but they kept it alive. They kept it alive, and we owe it to the generations to come to make sure that this remains alive for the rest of our lives so that we can carry forward. But let us not forget one important thing, that there is a marked difference between the Aza of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. There is 2 different things. Aza of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is what? We have Majlis, we have Matam, we have Marsiya, we have Nauha, we have Tabarruk, we have all these things that are all valid, and in different cultures it is done differently. Right? If you travel around even this GTA community and you go to the Afghani center, you go to the Iraqi center, you go to the Iranian center, you go to the Khoja center, you go to the Urdu speaking centers, everywhere there are differences up there in way they do it. It is all good, nothing wrong with it. But that is not an end in itself. The message here is, what was the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? The message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was that he wanted to do Amra bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, and to bring the community back to the seerah of the Prophet and Imam Ali alayhi salam. This was the message. Right? This was what was critical and important, and we must not lose sight of this message. We must ensure that we do keep on doing the Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar that is expected of us to do that. And then we do the Aza. Sometimes we get lost in this idea that I did this Marsiya and Matam and Majlis and all this, and it is fine. No, it is a means to an end. That is not an end in itself. Don't be satisfied because you did that one. Right? Very, very important that we do that. And finally, as we come into this Muharram times and this new year, Islamic year that we are going to go through from tomorrow, inshallah, let us not forget that when we are living in this life, whatever period that we have got left in this world, Allah will test us. Allah will test us. And nobody has been spared. Everybody will be tested. And the choices sometimes will be very stark. And we have to make that choice, however difficult it is. And look at the example from Karbala of two personalities. They were famous personalities. One is Umar ibn Sa'ad, la'natullahi alayh, right? Umar ibn Sa'ad was not an ordinary person. His father was Sa'ad bin Waqqas. He was a companion of the Prophet. So Umar ibn Sa'ad knew who Imam Hussein alayhi salam was. He knew him. He had lived around him there once, so he knew the status of Imam Hussein alayhi salam because his father was constantly with the Prophet. And the other is Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, right? Two people. The choice they made on the day of Ashura, one there is perpetual la'nat, one there is perpetual salawat and salam. Just one choice. What does Hur say? Look at Hur. And who saved Hur? Hur was saved by the name of Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. You will hear tomorrow in the Masaib, right, that when Imam Hussein, today Imam Hussein is already moving. He's already not heading towards Kufa. He's now heading north, trying to figure out what he's going to do. And he is now intercepted by Hur. And when it's all done, the story you will hear, right, when he's intercepted by Hur and then they're now about to leave, the Imam gives them water and all that. And he takes the girdle of the horse when Imam is boarded on the horse and stops it, telling Imam, you cannot leave. And Imam turns to him and says, may your mother cry on you, O Hur. Now, this was something that would take anybody aback. And what did Hur reply? Hur said, oh Hussein, if it had been anybody else, I would have replied in kind. But your mother is Fatima Zahra. I cannot utter those words. I cannot utter those words. Now fast forward 10 days. Fast forward 10 days, and now it is the day of Ashura. The sun has risen. The sun has risen. The drum beats are already beating to start the war. And Hur is pacing up and down, up and down, up and down. And what happens? Murrah, his companion, comes to him and says, oh Hur, what is this I see? Today is going to be a great victory. And you are pacing and perplexed. So he turns to him and says, oh Murrah, how hot is it today? He says, it is so hot today. It is so hot today that we have to take water from the Furat and put it on the feet of the animals so that they can keep their feet on the ground. It is that hot today. And he says, oh Murrah, you cannot hear the sounds of al-atash, al-atash, al-atash from the children of Hussein. Oh Murrah, it is I who is responsible for bringing Hussein to this one. And he comes and he's made this decision now that whatever happens, he is not going to be amongst those who will be condemned forever. He comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and I don't want to read Masaib or anything up. He comes to Imam and says, Mawla, will you forgive me? For it had been me, I'm only a soldier. I did not expect this to happen, right? I was only following orders. I did not expect this. Will you forgive me? And what does Imam say? I forgive you, and my Allah forgives you. This is the wilayah that Imam Hussein is able to say that not only I have forgiven you, but my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven you. Right? And then when Hur passes away, what does Imam say near his body? Oh Hur, anta hurrum fi dunya wal akhirah. Your mother named you right. You are a free man in this world and in the akhirah also. Right? Your mother named you right. You are a free man. So this is the lesson that we need to take from Karbala. We will be faced with situations like this. Will we choose to be on the side of Umar ibn Sa'ad, or will we be like Hur? That is a choice that presents itself on a daily basis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the wasila of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, especially Imam Hussein alayhi salam, give us that tawfiq to be able to understand the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and to be able to struggle in his way so that we can be successful on the day of Qiyamah, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkar wal baghi ya'idhukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. اللهم صل على